Welcome back to Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin in-depth run. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Vamz, and we're just going to start off here for part 2 with the Soul of the Last Giant. Soul of the surviving giant who was bound below the Forest of the Giants. The Giant Lord, who had brought wrack and ruin to the entire kingdom, was said to have been felled by an unknown warrior. His beaten and broken remains were then dragged beneath the stronghold where he was sealed away. Okay, so this goes into like endgame territory or near endgame, where we have to go into the giant's memories. This soul basically confirms that the Lord of the Giants was is, or actually rather was, in actually no, both respects. He both is and was the Lord of Giants. And they actually changed some of the Crystal Lizard places as well, which is kind of good because I remember all of them, and was kind of weirded out that the one down below here was actually gone this time around. Anyway, so that soul basically confirms that the last giant is the Giant Lord, and vice versa. The description says he was felled by an unknown warrior in the battle for Dragon Lake, pretty much, when he laid siege upon the Forest of the Giants. Or back then it just would have been, I actually don't know what it would have been called back then, just part of Dragon Lake, I suppose. And this is actually pretty sneaky. I liked what they did here with this guy here. Really easy to kill, but it was a good surprise attack. I almost didn't look around the entire area. I'm glad I did. But back to what I was saying about the Giant Lord. He was felled by an unknown warrior. That warrior was us, as we will see later in the game. He knows that because he remembers that from when we killed him the first time. So when we come back and fight him a second time, he gets enraged and he wants to kill us because, well, we killed him the first time. It only makes sense. And this all plays into the, well, it's not really time travel. It's more like, well, it is time travel because we do get to move around in the memories, and the memories are in the past. So it technically is time travel. Now, it's not something we can do in any place in the game. We only can do it in certain parts where they have memories that are available for us to just go into with the Ashen Mist Heart. There's only 4 locations in the entire game, I believe, which is here in the Forest of the Fallen Giants, and Broom Tower, which is part of the DLC that we'll go to later on. Broom Tower is also where we will fight one of my personal favorite bosses in the entire game. From the chest I just get the Ring of Restoration and a torch, and torches are actually a little more useful this time around. I don't know what I was doing there, I had the menu open for some reason, but I just equip all my rings pretty much. So I've got the Stamina Ring right now, the Chloranthy Ring, the Life Ring, and the Ring of Restoration. This Cyan Knight actually spooked me quite a bit, because I didn't realize that they were actually putting Cyan Knights at the doors that required the symbol of the king. I suppose they're kind of treating the Cyan Knights a bit more like Black Knights from Dark Souls 1 in Scholar of the First Sin. But they don't have the same imposing threat as the Black Knights did in Dark Souls 1, which is a bit of a bummer. So for anyone that needs a bit of an explanation behind the King's Doors and the Cyan Knights, Cyan was a kind of a general or a leader in Vendrick's army, but he died in battle. So what happened was, Cyan died in battle, and because he was so loyal to Vendrick, Vendrick took it upon himself to create a legion of knights called the Cyan Knights. Now, what they did was they took the original style of Cyan's armor and basically reciprocated it to the rest of those knights to pay tribute to their fallen leader. We're going to see a lot more Cyan Knights and a lot more lore about them when we actually get to Dragon Lake Castle, but for now, this is all I really remember about them. As for the King's Doors, these have a much bigger explanation and a lot more reasoning behind them. Just a simple explanation of them first is that the King's Doors were put in place by Vendrick to basically stop anyone from seeking him out, and more so to stop people from trying to ascend the throne. Now, if you haven't played this game before or really finished it, and don't really understand why you need to reach Vendrick to ascend the throne, it's because we need something called the Symbol of the King, which is a ring that Vendrick used to wear. Only this ring can open the King's Doors. The King's Doors are just some of the many roadblocks that were put in place by Vendrick to stop Nashandra from bringing upon the Age of Darkness and basically reaching the Throne of Want. This was discussed a bit more in the last video, so if you watch that one, you probably get this, or what I'm talking about here, a bit more. But basically, Nashandra can't get to the throne with these certain roadblocks in place. It's literally impossible for her to do so. For one, she would need to leave the castle, go to the Undead Crypt, then open the King's Doors, go to Aldia's Keep, go to the Ancient Dragon, get the Ashen Mist Heart, and then bring it back, go to the Forest of the Fallen Giants, where we are now, go into the Giant Memories, and, well, basically defeat the Giant Lord. And in all honesty, I don't see Nashandra getting through all that shit. So, what does she have us do? She has an undead, not a chosen undead, just an undead, or rather every undead that comes to this land, try to seek the throne for her. Oh, this is the part I was talking about last video. How ridiculous is this? 3 fucking ironclad soldiers on a rooftop that can all be alerted to your presence at the same time. I mean, the one at the back, he hasn't seen me yet, but these two definitely have, and I'm just getting hammered to shit right here. This right here is a bad use of both enemies and design for the entire rooftop. I mean, there's literally almost nowhere to run. You can't really stagger these dudes at all. And really the only way to get out of it is to kill them all. Because you can't go into the climb animation without getting whacked in the head. And after that, you'll most likely fall down the ladder, and knowing Dark Souls 2's like fall damage, will die. So, oh, and one just fell down the ladder like that. I mean, yeah, you can use the hole to your advantage, but they most likely will always walk around it. Now, you can call me a scrub or tell me to get good, but this is still ridiculous. Also, yeah, that's what I was talking about in the last video. That happens twice, believe it or not. You guys won't have to worry about the runbacks at all, because with the power of editing, I am going to cut them all out. Now, I just summoned this NPC character here. I just wanted to see how well he would deal with the 3 ironclad soldiers on that rooftop. Basically, if you remember what I said before, just a few seconds ago, about that thing happening twice, he's not in for a good time, because he kind of gets ganked, like real bad. Like all 3 of those ironclad soldiers just go for him, and it's actually pretty funny. Because I was just standing back. I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was just trying to attack them one by one, but it wasn't really doing much because they were all crowding around him in one corner. So if they swung and hit him, they would hit me too, because they were pretty much just all swinging at the same time. And you'll see that in a second. But it basically just goes to show what I'm talking about when I say it's a bad use of enemy placement and design for the rooftop, or rather the design for where the enemies are on the rooftop. There doesn't need to be 3 unstaggerable, very long-lived enemies up there. It's one of the other things that I find completely unnecessary, along with the use of artificial difficulty added in this version, where they've just added so many more enemies to areas that didn't need it. I'm pretty sure there was only 1 or 2 ironclads up here in the first place. Oops, that wasn't me. I'm pretty sure that was an ironclad. And oh, see, he's almost off the edge. Wait, they'll keep hitting him off. Just keep your eye on the dude at the back. Yep, bye-bye. And now they don't know what to do. I think I've said all I really need to for this rooftop. It's just a bit of a mess. They didn't fix anything in this part. Actually, this part of the Forest of the Fallen Giants was fine. I didn't see any reason to need to change anything in this part whatsoever. Because you know what? Most people never came here anyway. It is basically a useless area. It doesn't need to be here at all. Just like these 3 ironclad soldiers don't need to be on this rooftop. Now, if I came here later in the game, yeah, sure, these would be a cakewalk. They would pose no threat whatsoever, because I'd be able to kill them in 1 or 2 swings. But coming here right after you defeat the last giant, and having to poke away or swing away at the ironclads for about a minute or so before you defeat them is just annoying and relentless and unnecessary. This whole area just isn't really required to be here. There's nothing of importance in this area at all. There's a few little items, but mostly they're irrelevant. They were probably just like, you know what, this area isn't quite big enough. We need to just put an add-on just to make it a bigger area and to give the whole feel of the place a bit more validity in general. But in my opinion, the only thing this area does for me is give me the feeling that it doesn't need to be here. That's bottom line for me. That's all I get from this area. There's a bonfire here, but you don't even need it. I think there's 2 or 3 other bonfires in this area, and they're both easily accessible from pretty much all points of the forest. There's no reason to have one this far back in an area that's not required to be here. Okay, so rant over. I'm going to try and get back to a little bit of the lore stuff as soon as we get out of this place, though. I do think I should talk about what they have done well in this area, though. Not just what has been done poorly or what hasn't been improved upon. They have added darkness to like the first area where you go down the stairs. That's good. Like it's closer to what we were promised in the E3 trailer, like the first one with the lighting. The lighting is a lot better. Like not just in this area, but every area of the game is a lot better. The textures are phenomenal, like phenomenally better than what they were in the original version. Like you can actually see what things are. They aren't just grey flat textures or like just generic brick or grass or something. They actually have life to them, which is amazing. It should have been what was there in the first place. It's kind of like, alright, so I've paid for 3 copies of this game now. PS3, original PC, and now this one. Now, yeah, you can say that's kind of, oh, I got invaded here as well. I wasn't sure if this was a NPC or not. He kind of plays like an actual player, and he actually does gesture me when he, like, first sees me. So I couldn't tell. And I kind of do have a rough time beating him, because as you see, I have 0 Estus, because I thought it was an NPC, and, dude, he uses magic. I'm, like, level 20, and he's using, like, soul greatswords and soul spears and shit. I kind of had to heal in this fight. But I only really healed because I was at least 90% convinced that this was an NPC, and I'm also getting shot by a undead soldier at the same time, so come on, it's a little unfair. Now, yeah, I only healed because I thought it was an NPC. I know the meta on healing in PvP, I don't usually do it. I was convinced that this guy was an NPC, even though he didn't really play like one. Like, it might just be that they've stepped things up in Scholar of the First Sin, and NPC invaders play a lot more fluidly, like they were actual invaders. And if that is the case, then kudos to them, because that's another check in the box for things they've improved upon, rather than backpedaling and, I don't know, kind of screwing up things. This guy actually plays, if he is an NPC, he plays like an actual invader. And he didn't heal or fight, so I'm guessing that it was an NPC, or I don't know. Usually NPCs do heal, so maybe it was an actual player. But I mean, would someone willingly make their name Armorer Dennis? I don't know, maybe. I make my guy's name Wankashim, so whatever floats your boat. But anyway, back to what they've actually improved upon in Scholar of the First Sin. Lighting, textures, enemy AI, even though enemy AI can be like aggroed from a much larger distance now, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yeah, but I don't know, take it as you will. If this invader is an NPC, invasions or NPC invasions are a lot better, and they actually pose a real challenge now, whereas before, you could pretty much just bait out their attacks and rinse and repeat. But this guy actually mixes up his attacks. Once again, if he is an NPC, he is doing a good job. If it's just a player, then, well, fuck me, this whole conversation has been for naught. But, I mean, even if he's a player, he's doing pretty well, but drop the shield, man. Actually, if this isn't a real player, then I don't know how well I'd say he's doing, because he has both a shield and magic, and I have a two-handed rapier. And if it is a player, I apologize for healing. You kind of left me no choice, man. You're fighting me in an area where I didn't get to kill all my enemies, and you are invading me, so it's kind of fair game. Back to things that they have improved upon other than what I've discussed previously. The enemy placement of this area was good up until I got to that rooftop. Like, things were fine. They put skeletons down in the, like, that area below the stairs rather than ironclads and undead soldiers. Skeletons actually make sense in that area because it looks collapsed and it looks like it's like a lot of soldiers would have died in there in the battle. So therefore they would have rotted away over time and become skeletons. It actually makes sense for them to be down there. I mean, undead warriors, like undead soldiers, they work as well. But skeletons in this game actually pose a bit more of a threat than generic undead warriors. So it's actually good to have a bit of variety. And they've done that here, which is good. They're showing that they're actually starting to think about what enemies they want in what areas. That was a bit of a tongue twister. I'm not sure if I should have put it that way. But you get what I mean. Their thought process on what enemies should be in what areas and in what placements has been greatly improved, other than those ironclads on the roof. That's one good thing I had to say about this area. And even though I have had good things to say about this area, it is still a bit of a mess, and I'm glad I'm finally leaving it, because now we can actually get back to talking about the lore and stuff of the more important parts of the game, and the more interesting parts. And I'm pretty sure the part that I'm off to next is Heides Tower of Flame. So I might just jump ahead to that, since I don't really know what I'm doing here in Majula. I think I'm just leveling up and stuff, so I'll see you guys in a second. I just kept this part in because I should probably explain that throughout this playthrough I will be trying to get as many achievements as possible, and I may in fact end up taking this playthrough into New Game Plus and New Game Plus 2. I don't know yet, but there is still a lot of lore to be uncovered in the New Game Pluses, like the Old Lord Souls, and more achievements as well. Like, you can't finish all the achievements without at least going into New Game Plus. And for those of you screaming at me saying that you can get the achievements through Covenants, I don't want to waste my time doing Covenants in this playthrough. It's actually faster to skip the Covenants and just race straight through to New Game Plus 2 so you can get to Dragonrider Castle and get all the achievements. Just a little context for those that don't know, to get all the achievements you need to get all the spells, and the only way to get all the spells is either to fully complete, I think it's 2 Covenants, and to do that you basically just need to do invasions, and I am definitely not going to be invading or doing much summoning in this playthrough. So, I don't know, I might skip New Game Plus, and then I'll just record New Game Plus 2. It just depends on my schedule and what works better for me. But also, I just want to say, if you guys do want me to keep in things like enhancing armor and leveling armor up, as well as leveling up my character, like keeping in the parts where I talk to the Emerald Herald and level up my stats, please just tell me to keep it in, and I will, if you do want to see that and see what kind of build I'm going for. Basically, right now, up until endgame, I will be just going for a pure dex build, because there's a lot of good dex weapons in this game, and it's really quite easy to get through the entire game with even just 2 plus 10 rapiers. So yeah, that's pretty much just all I'll be going for now. After I get to endgame and I start doing the DLC, I will probably start going for more of a quality build or a strength build. But I'll see what kind of what it kind of evolves into as we play. And welcome to Heides Tower of Flame. Just the graphics here look so much better than in the first version of the game. It looks absolutely brilliant on PC and Scholar of the First Sin. I just went past a Heide Knight there. I kind of just ignored him because I didn't actually see him. They kind of just blend into the background here. Okay, so lore on Heide. Believe it or not, there actually isn't much lore on this place. Most of it's left up to our imaginations. There is one theory that the Flame God Flan and Guinevere fled here from Anor Londo to create a kingdom of their own, hence it being called Heides Tower of Flame. So it could be possible that Guinevere fled Anor Londo with her husband Flan to come to where we are here in Heide and erect this kingdom. The structures of the buildings are very close to that of Anor Londo, as we can see with the Cathedral of Blue off to the left. But once again, this is just a theory, and it is not actual fact. We are only talking about the facts here, so I'll kind of just get onto it right now. I'll try and go into a few more item descriptions as we play as well. The reason I haven't done many so far is because to get the really good lore, you actually need to grind for the pieces of armor that you want, or the weapons that you want rather. So we see the Heide knights that are around this area, the knights that are dressed in all white armor that are sitting down. They drop the most interesting lore about this place, but you have to farm them, and they don't respawn. So it's kind of win-lose. You get to kill a Heide knight, and it's a challenge, but you may not get the piece of armor that you want. So I'm just going to read off the wiki here, and then I'll explain to you what it could mean. Whether Heide refers to a kingdom or was just a name for the land is not clear, for no records date back far enough to tell. All that is known is that the Way of the Blue has its origins in Heide, and that Heide was later subsumed by the sea. Basically what this is saying is that Heide could either be the name of the founder of the land or the kingdom, or just the land itself. Now, since we can't know for sure, I think it is the name of a person, that person being Heide, seeing as it is Heides Tower of Flame, Heide '(S), so it is in possession of Heide. This is just my interpretation of it, but the naming of this area kind of pushes you to think that Heide's Tower of Flame is in possession of someone called Heide, or was in possession of someone called Heide. The name Heide may have been an alias for someone else that was here. It may have just been someone that had a different name that was called Heide. Now, this is kind of unlikely. Heide was probably their real name, but we don't know of anyone that could be this person. There's no one referenced in the lore directly as being Heide, so it's very unclear to say whether this is the land or a person. We really can't say for sure. I kind of wish they would have covered Heide a lot more in Scholar of the First Sin, like they did with the last giant being the Giant Lord, and clearing up a lot more of the lore. They've kind of left this place just as vague as it was in the original game, and that is a bit of a letdown for me, because this place, Heide, is especially vague. There's Ornstein up in the Cathedral of Blue. I don't know if there's a reason for him being there yet, as this is as far as I've gotten right now. I haven't beaten Ornstein at this stage, but I'm guessing the answer is still no. What we do know for sure is that the Way of Blue, another covenant, had its origins in Heide. Who's to say that the leader of the Way of Blue covenant was not the progenitor of Heide and Heide's Tower of Flame? Heide may have in fact been the first member of the Way of Blue. So it kind of makes sense if you think about it. Think of the architecture in this area, everything being blue. It all relates back to the Way of Blue covenant. And essentially, this could mean that the Way of Blue is the covenant that rules over Heide, which makes sense since we go to the Cathedral of Blue and we meet one of the leaders of the covenant. I'm about to go into a boss fight here, so we're going to talk a bit about the boss and his lore before I go back to talking about Heide and stuff. So we're about to fight a Dragonrider. Basically, Dragonriders are... they're kind of like... I see them as kind of sub-bosses because they're not difficult at all. You basically just dodge to the left on all their attacks and you can hit them 100% of the time. Basically, Dragonriders were part of Vendrick's army. They rode either drakes or dragons into battle, and they're kind of like the top tier of Vendrick's soldiers. So we have like the undead soldiers, which were pretty much just fodder, and then the undead knights, and then we have the Cyan knights, and then we have the Dragonriders. And we probably have a few distinctions in between, but those are the main parameters for what Vendrick's army had. So these guys are basically like the Black Knights of Vendrick's army. Although, unlike the Cyan Knights, they are not imposing at all. The music, just listen to it for a second. Yeah, that probably makes you think that this guy is a big deal, but as we see here, he goes down without much fuss at all. And no, not a big deal. I don't really have much to say about the design of the Dragonrider bosses. They're a bit hit and miss, as in, they're not difficult, even later on when you have to verse 2 of them at once, and I could literally have killed this Dragonrider in about 10 seconds if I wanted to, using the cheese tactic. Basically, you just stand at the start of the area, don't pull any of the levers that increase the size of the arena, and just get him to charge at you and fall off the ledge. You literally don't even have to attack. But they do serve for an easy first round boss in this area. And we're just gonna grab Licia of Lindelt's dialogue here.
Are you from these parts? My name is Licia. I have come to spread the art of miracles, a practice of which I am a disciple. I can see that you are well suited to comprehend their wondrous power. But the cost of it, that's for your heart to decide. I'd heard awful rumors about this place, and I'm afraid they were all true. The king, gone. The earth, ravaged. The burden on the people weighs heavy. I fear that by now, they may have scarce room in their hearts for miracles. Why did I come here? Well, do I need any other reason than to spread the gospel of miracles? My preceptor always said this art should be shared with the world. And such is my only wish. Sometimes I fight the urge to pack up and go back home. It is... well, I must do this. And being out here all alone only makes this a more fitting test of my fortitude. This
NPC, Licia, is someone we'll actually come across again in our travels, but I won't explain how just yet, as I kind of want it to be a surprise if you don't know who she is yet. There isn't that much lore about her, she just comes from a place called Lindelt, and she focuses on miracles as a traveller. Now, she's a bit like Saint Urbain in that respect, except Licia is a fucking psychopath, and that may have spoiled the surprise, but once again, you'll see later on.
Just that. I expected this cathedral to be bustling, but there's hardly a soul to be found here. Without any goings-on, I'll have to move soon. To a place I could help the gullible. By
So I just talked to her then to get her to move back to Majula, and unfortunately we're kinda out of time here. Sorry that I didn't get time to go into any user comments. Next time I'll make sure I save room for it. So yeah, thanks for watching again, hope you enjoyed, and see you next episode.